So we're good to go.
Let's roll.
Haka. So you've got a new Haka for the World Cup.
Well, not for the World Cup, just for indoor cricket, New Zealand going forward. Something that belongs to us, tells our story rather than the Kamati Haka, which is very New Zealand generic, but it's not indoor cricket, specific. So, I spoke to Corey Todd about helping me in that regard, and he put me on to a close friend, and we gave Ants the story of from our perspective of what indoor cricket was in New Zealand, and some of the challenges, why we play, the sort of people there are, and he went about writing a haka and creating the actions, and we saw that for the first time today.
Nice. Yeah, the guys were commenting on it a little bit earlier on. They were sort of talking about a bit of excitement, like you sort of alluded to there. It was about a little bit of ownership. It was something that's ours, or theirs. They could really own it as a challenge rather than, like you sort of said, you've seen so many years of the All Blacks performing it, so you feel like you're doing someone else's.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm glad they said that to you, because it's something that wasn't really asked of them. It was sort of something that I thought was a good idea. And I asked a few people if they thought they agreed with that idea, but I'm glad that that's the case. And I guess it's something for them. They're going to be the first players, team to perform it and to own it, I guess. For them, it's going to be something they can hand down to the next players that come through that New Zealand side. So, ownership. It's I guess it means more when you perform it, or when you're doing it and challenging. Its roots and where it comes from. So, I'm excited by it.
Yeah.
I thought it looked really good too.
Nice, man. No, it's early doors too. Yeah, that's cool. We haven't mentioned this before, but you and Rowdy, or the way that you've got the New Zealand team sort of structured now, is there's a lot of history. There's a real drive around those players, current players in the team now, understanding the history of who they're actually representing in the New Zealand thing, and it's actually something that actually sparked why I do this.
Cool.
Yeah, it is cool, man. It's I won't go through the reasons again, but simply it's just so that today's players can really understand past and how the game was played back in the day, especially when you and I first started and started rocking around the courts together, or maybe not so much together, but certainly on the same court, wearing different colours. But it's just so important that because there was so many great players and there's such great history in such a short time too, right? I mean, sport hasn't been going on that long.
No.
But we've seen so many amazing players do some amazing things, and I just don't want them forgotten.
Yeah, it's really hard. The history of the New Zealand game is very poorly documented, and I think Dave Nagle may have started the process somewhat with Botsy a little bit. There was some stuff, and then when Steve Hart got involved, he really took it, and really ran with it, and got quite far down the process, and then was kind enough to pass it on to me and Rowdy when we took over, and I've just run with it, and I love that stuff. It's so cool, and we haven't got it down packed 100%. The early years, we know all the players, but we don't know exactly how many games some of those players have played, and that's something that it's a challenge that I'm really trying to work out. But I think from 90 to maybe we've got all those caps sorted, So it's just those earlier years. But it's great. You know, we've created a roll of honour that travels with us. It has every New Zealand player from 1 to 112, I think it is now.
Who's won?
Murray Aiken, I think, won. The first side was in alphabetical order from 1 to 10 or 11, 12. I can't remember exactly how many players there were. To current debutants who have been issued with their numbers already. So and like I say, the more recent players, we have a very accurate account of how many games they've played, and so we're able to celebrate milestones in their careers, which is really cool. And we try and do all that stuff, try and do it well. So when the debutants play their first games, those occasions are celebrated. They get capped, and that certainly wasn't done when I started out, that.
We probably got delivered the shirts we got here, and a bit of a handshake, and good luck, mate.
Yeah, from memory, I think they did the shirt presentation with the woman.
Yeah.
98.
Yeah. My memory's dusty.
Yeah.
Memory's dusty. So, you and I, can you remember the first time that you and I would have sort of crossed paths? Would it have been Colts, sort of early 90s, 92, 91, 92, 93? When was your first year?
First Colts year was 89, I think. Played Colts and men's in 89. Super League men's Colts tournaments.
So how old were you in 89?
14.
14. Playing men's cricket.
Yeah.
That's pretty exceptional.
Yeah. So, played for ICA Petone back in the day. So
Robbie Centre?
No. Robbie, what were they? Petone Indoor Sports, but before that they were Harbourview, something. Anyway, no, ICA Petone was where Valley is, but the Valley hadn't been created because it was something that Dad brought in once he bought
I want to get to that.
The stadium. The ICA Petone side wasn't particularly strong in terms of the other Super League sides in the Wellington area, and there were a number of sides. Robbie, the Petone Indoor Sports, they had two sides. And they were both very strong. The depth and quality back in those days, or particularly for somebody that was 14 years old, was amazing. But I don't think that side that I played in there would have been too many guys that you probably knew, to be fair.
Irv McSweeney might have been.
He was certainly playing for Petone Indoor Sports, but we had my two big bros that looked after me, Stu Potts and Nico. But the other names probably aren't sort of indoor cricket household names at all. But it was a good side. We played indoor cricket hard, and I learned a lot from those guys.
It's always bewildered me. Like I had the chat with Kirby as well. How strong Wellington has been while the actual player base hasn't been that deep. I think that over the years, I guess Auckland's been quite blessed with a reasonable depth, while we all want more depth, but in terms of in relation to the rest of the country, we've probably had more depth than most. But Wellington has always been, probably over history, has actually been the strongest performing, who had the strongest performing sides, probably the most winning championships over the years as well, I would say.
I wouldn't know.
What do you think's driven that, though? Like the culture and the performance of players. And Robbie was great. He just basically said, if you look like you play a bit of cricket, you'd be thrown into men's cricket.
Yeah. That's fair. And I guess when you're playing numbers aren't they aren't huge. When a hole comes about, you've got to fill it somehow, and so you got to search, you got to look somewhere, and I guess the guys within the group find players from their maybe their outdoor networks or whatever, bring them in, train them up, and away you go.
Some of the guys that you had playing around you, especially from Colts cricket coming through, were really good in indoor, but they were fantastic outdoor players as well. So Craig Foster in particular was a pretty special outdoor player, and Shane Baddock.
Yep.
I actually saw Shane at the Nationals for the first time. I don't know in how long. Hardly recognised the guy, but it was good to see him. It's a shame those guys, or Shane in particular, didn't hang around a little bit longer to play the game, because he was just exceptional talent.
Amazing, Amazing. Betty's some of the stuff that he did on the court, I just never seen again. Just so amazingly talented, and incredible. But with that came what's the word I'm looking for? Sometimes some recklessness, because he could do things that other people just couldn't do. So he was always looking for that.
But you didn't want to restrict that in any way either, right? You just wanted to let it go.
No, yeah. And amazing to watch.
Yeah.
Amazing. Or, to be on the court with and see some of those things, it just fills you with so much confidence, the guys around you. Amazing.
Chiz, when he came and played at Valley, he's made that switch from playing at Harbour, and then had a bit of a career move down to Wellington, and so started playing with you guys. Really mentioned that the culture and the trainings were very different, and there was a real, quite an intense sort of, relaxed but intense at the same time. Like there was a real effort put in trainings and that down at Hut. What do you remember, or what do you remember? Because you were leading at that stage, I suppose.
When Chiz came, I was
leading the men's team by that stage, eh?
Yeah.
And was that something that was really focused on with trainings? And
no, I don't think there was anything that was said, but I think we were quite fortunate or quite blessed that we had, we did have a reasonable playing base, so there were more than 12 guys trying to fight for a spot. We also had quite a good Colts program through World Series, and so we had guys that were aspiring to play at that level. And I think when you get that sort of environment, if you don't impress at training, you don't get selected. So it created an environment where where it was tough. Guys, wanted to make you work hard because they wanted to make the team. And certainly there was a period there where you made that the Valley side. You were halfway there almost. Like it was a tough side to crack. Tough side.
Fortunate that you had a centre that obviously you worked out of, or pretty much ran as well, with Dad owning it, and great to be able to have that court time as well, which is something that's just so tough to get hold of now, as club sides being able to get court time to train, and even for one-on-one, I know that Vic's been doing a lot of work at Central over the last few weeks / months, and that's great, but he has to go in almost 5 o'clock in the morning every morning to go and do it, but he's doing it, which is, hats off to the person that he is. But for club sides to get down, actually get some court time these days is really, really hard.
We trained, Saturday morning. That were, they were always our training time. So not super convenient, but that, that's all we could get. Back in those days, indoor sports was pumping. The stadium was full all the time. It was really hard to get court space. Even on Friday night, like we had netball leagues and over masters cricket competitions, and you just weren't getting court space. So but like I said, if you didn't turn up, somebody else was going to take your spot. So everyone did. But I mean, going back to that, in the early days, everyone wanted to turn up. Because somewhere along the line there, we were all mates. We wanted to hang out together. We did hang out together, and so we had our cricket, and then we'd socialise together. Play Super League that night, and then we'd go out together, and we those guys from those sort of, I mean, I played with them earlier than the late 90s, but that sort of period, we were like a family, you know. It was, you might have sensed that sort of, you know, playing against us and things like that, you know, you know, like, yeah, weddings, 21st, birth, you know, like all, you know, later, you know, childbirth, you know, children and things. We celebrated and did that all together, you know, like, so we were really fortunate in that way. And, you know, you don't see it that often, but I have, you know, I've seen it replicated since, you know, like with some sides. But
I feel like we've probably got something similar with Harbour, the way it has been, because, you know, since 2015 when we lost our original club, we really haven't had a home since then. Yeah, so it's certainly not one that we've played Super League at. Since then, it's almost binded us even closer in a way, because you're sort of up against it, and so, you know, you get guys really sort of, you know, forming and gelling even just a bit more. So there's a bit about that at Harbour. I didn't know what to make of the Valley side back in the day, to be honest. Like, you guys just rocked around. I mean that in a really good sense. Just super relaxed, super confident, like almost like you guys just knew exactly how this thing was going to play out. And it was most times it was probably the way that it rolled out, you know. And there was the odd time where we managed to get up, and it sort of shocked us all. Yeah, it just a lot of confidence, and it's sort of, you know, I guess if you're a part of a side or you're a player who's done all the hard work and the preparation, and you've got guys that you play for as well on the court, then you're in a really good position. Going here against opposition.
Agreed, and if you add in the trust factor, I think, you know, like I think there was a genuine trust in the guy that was standing next to you that they would perform, and yeah, you go through periods, I guess. You know, I remember those late 90s and the Harbour battles. They were the big battles. You know, they were tough. You know, and then you know, there was a period where Alice Street were, you know, when the you know, Nathan Daly's, the Orchards, Gareth Irwin's, you know, they all came through, and, you know, tough, you know. Earlier than that, you know, when I remember playing 96, and we played Harbour, and maybe it was Royal Oak in the North Island final, and then Harbour in the national final. And those sides that we played were like, you know, like you know, Wayne and Keith Anoka, Corey Todd, Mallet, the names were, you know, and then the Harbour side, you know, the Jensens, were you playing?
Yeah, I was playing in 96, 95 would have been overseas, 94 was at Grand Slam, 93 overseas, 92 playing men's. This was my first year of men's at Harbour, and that was probably when those guys were more around. In 96 we had, I think Stewie J was captain of our side, and we had Stu Heatley come over and play for us.
Right.
And I think it was the first year that Spence played for us as well, that Spence had immigrated over with his family, Spencer Thorpe, and you know, joined me and Andre, and we had, you know, pretty dynamic. JK, Jeremy Kearney played, Dean Parker. Alan Lindstrom was around at that stage still, I think, as well. You know, just really, really solid players. And we had a good unit. I think that, you know, perhaps looking back, we were still building on that trust thing with each other. Personality-wise, we probably weren't so blended. Super talented cricketers, but probably didn't have the real gel, the real brotherhood thing happening just yet. There was a bit of conflict internally with some guys, and me included, because I wasn't the easiest guy to get on with back in those days. Just probably a little bit too intense, but that's all right. That's okay. We all learn, the format of Super League's changed a little bit in Wellington now. Back then it would have been week in, week out, Super League. Now it's sort of almost like a tournament style, 3 games every month on a Saturday, right, or 2 games.
Roughly,
Yeah. Any thoughts around that? Like, what? I mean, you're obviously not playing it, but you're around it still, and go and check it out. And
Yep.
Yeah,
I haven't seen a lot this year, to be fair,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I mean, I know how the format. Look, I was part of the Central Region Committee that decided to go down the path of creating the tournament style. There were a couple of factors that probably led to that. One was the geographical challenges that we have in the Central Region with Palmy and Napier, being involved in our Super League comp. And around the time that we went to that format, I think we lost one or two centres in the Wellington region as well. So the team, the number base got a little bit lower, I guess. And so one of the challenges was keeping Hawke's Bay and Palmy involved. And the best way to do that was to give them multiple games over the course of a weekend. And so I think the thought process around tournament structure being one of the parts of our game that all the players really enjoy, that tournament structure. So I think when we first did it, we actually made 4 separate trophies up for grabs.
Wow.
And so you played like a Wellington Open, a Hutt Valley Open, the Manawatu Open, and the Hawke's Bay Open. And you went to those 4 destinations. So, Wellington would be played at Wellington, the Hutt Open would be played at Valley, Manawatu was up in Palmy and Hawke's Bay, and you played every team once, and the team with the most points at the end won that particular title. And then if you won the title, you got 5 points for the overall championship. If you came second, you got 3. Third, you got 1. And so to get the overall Super League champion was the team with the most points at the end of the season.
I suppose the biggest concern there is just, are the players happy? And if the players are happy with the format, then that's hitting the mark.
Yeah.
And keeping them involved. It was an interesting one for me because I looked at it and went, well, one of the great thing that's happening in Auckland at the moment is I see it because I'm involved in the harbour setup with the juniors and the girls in particular coming through, and it's great to see how many are sort of transitioning through from that junior program and then sort of filtering through into the senior stuff on Saturdays. The thing that I think really entices those girls, like, they want to play. They just want to play every single week. They love it. They love the environment with each other, probably just as much as the game itself. They just want to be around each other and have lots of fun, and it's just really cool. It's just really invigorating to be a part of that. So then I reflect that back on what Super League in the adults looks like when you're an up and coming kid in the Wellington junior program, and you go, well, I'm going to play once every month. Okay, we'll see how this goes, but then unless they're a kid that can take care of themselves in terms of travel and all that, they're still relying on mum to get them to places, or mum and dad, and that, then maybe their parents will just go, oh, we'll just get back in the basketball or back into football, or maybe you might end up not getting as many kids transitioning over. I don't know. It's a bit of just a question, really.
Yeah, well, even a point. It's a fair point, and I don't know if I have the the right answer, but a question to answer, to follow that question would be, if you were playing week to week, how many of those players would you lose because they're playing other sport?
Right.
Might not, but you might. And the fact that they only have to commit for, one Saturday once a month might enable them to participate in their other sport.
But what we're seeing with the Auckland setup at the moment is that we do have a lot of outdoor girls playing indoor cricket, which is great, right? Because they've been coached with an outdoor technique, bringing that into indoor, playing a season of indoor, then going back to their outdoor coaches that next season, already hitting the ground running, and bringing that to their outdoor coaches. They'd be loving it, right? And they're just there a step ahead of the other girls that didn't play indoor. And then lo and behold, probably some of those girls are going to transition into indoor as well. Like, they absolutely love it. So I wonder whether with the juniors, the indoor should back itself a little bit more over other sports, you know? Like, yeah, okay, they're good footballers and good hockey players and all that, but I love indoor cricket. I'm not giving that up.
Yeah. You know, how many sports do you know that don't play every week?
There's not many.
No.
It's not many.
No. You know, and that's one of the questions perhaps for the diehard indoor cricketers ask. So, indoor cricket's my sport. Why not playing every week? That's what I want to do. But
you bring up a great point with the geography. It's not easy, and you got to have Hawke's Bay in your guys' group. You've got to have Palmy in there as well. They're so strong, and so competitive. They just really bring in elements. You just don't want to leave those guys out in the cold. You've got to give them an option. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. In terms of your playing career, do you remember the first time you played your first New Zealand game? And do you remember
I remember my first New Zealand tour.
Right.
I don't know if I remember my first.
Is that 95? Did you go on the 95?
No.
Was
98.
that 98?
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd never. So I played 96. You know, obviously we had a good year, but 97, I went to the UK and had a season over there playing outdoor cricket. So no indoor cricket. And then came back 98 and due to go back to the UK. But Vanessa and I got pregnant. And so that posed a challenge, you know, to going back because Vanessa couldn't go and she was pregnant. So we decided, well, I decided that I didn't want to miss that. So I stayed, and which enabled me to
go to Melbourne, play World Cup.
yeah. But enabled me to play. That wasn't the plan. That wasn't on the radar. I mean, I'd never played for Wellington prior to 98. You know, I played Colts for Wellington, but never played men's. Or sorry, not the Central region.
Oh, the Central region stuff. So you just captained your hut side, and you hadn't made the Central region side.
Well, I wasn't captain of Valley in 98. Right. Robbie was.
Right.
And you know, I was just a player.
Right.
And you know, surrounded by superstars. Yeah. I mean, look, my outdoor, you know, was going quite well, and you know, playing reasonably good cricket, and I was extremely fortunate that that Robbie helped me transition to become a half decent indoor cricketer at the time, and played well enough to get selected to represent New Zealand.
What were some of the things that he sort of focused on there?
In terms of
just you, like developing you, and some of the things you improved.
I had no understanding about a batting game plan. None.
Right. I don't think any of us did, really.
Well, yeah.
He did.
He certainly
was the only one.
He certainly did.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, you know, from a batting perspective, you know, by that stage I'd grown up a little bit, and so I was a little bit stronger. You know, when I first started playing, I literally, they batted me with the fastest runner because, you know, I couldn't hit it very hard. So Stu Potts was on his belly every ball, you know, to make sure that we got home and things like that. But by that stage I could hit the ball a little bit harder, and so could perhaps fend for myself. And but Robbie taught me, you know, like how to hit the ball a little bit later, and you know, try and bounce the ball, and yeah, and it sort of progressed from there. To fortunate enough to bat with Ian O'Brien at the Tri-Series, and he was outstanding that Tri-Series. And I think we got 40 every time we batted, but Oba probably got about 30 of them, and you know, I got 10. But yeah, maybe I sailed in on his coattails a little bit. I'm not sure, but yeah, that was. But prior to that, I never played for the Wellington men. It was always, I a little punk that was in my way. So
Yeah, Billy. Yeah.
took care of that one though, Colsey.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, it was from the opposition sort of side, it was always interesting. Like Billy, I've already said, for me, he's the goat of New Zealand indoor men's. Him and Simon Doyle are probably the two best I've ever seen represent our country for us. And Billy. Part of Billy's game was that he was probably the best point fielder we've ever seen as well. He was just amazing. But that's not taking anything away from you. You were dynamite there yourself. It was just, how do you field two guys up front? So you ended up being on a line for a lot.
Yeah, or floating a little bit. Just to try and make the side in any way that I could. But I 100% agree. Billy was, if he was in the side, he was your point. It wasn't an argument. It was a no-brainer. And he was always going to make your side because he was fantastic. Bat, bowl, super player. But when I didn't go to England, they were looking for a player, so I thought no one better to go than Billy. And,
that's right. Yeah, he ran me through that.
Yeah.
Run us through your side of the story.
Well, that's exactly how it went, mate. No, Billy was pretty good at outdoor cricket at the time as well.
Yeah.
And the club that I was playing for were looking for an all-rounder, and obviously the indoor connection. We knew each other, and I thought, well, maybe Billy might want to go, and I didn't want to sell him short. I wanted to send him a good player, and we know that Billy's a really good player, and Billy was keen to give that a crack. And I'm certain that if Billy was around, my pathway to that New Zealand side would have been a whole lot different. May not have happened.
Maybe.
Who knows? But the fact that he wasn't there certainly opened the door far
You're
wider.
Just lucky I wasn't fielding point at that stage, mate. Way too scared to be up front. And so in terms of leadership and that, when did you sort of feel like that was something that you wanted to pursue? Do you think it was something that was just sort of fell on your shoulders a little bit, or was it something that you were quite keen on getting into?
No, I don't.
Look for everybody, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I think. I'm not sure how that sort of eventuated. When we had a great leader at Valley. Birdie is a sensational leader of men. That one of our strengths as a team. We follow that guy anywhere. But yeah, I think tactically, it's one of the strengths of my game. I think it's one thing that.
Be honest here, mate.
It's I think it's one of the big things that I offer. Fortunate enough that New Zealand coaches thought that similar, and put me into that role.
Yeah. Do you so like with that? Do you find that because obviously there's a talent around reading the game that needs to be quite instinctive, but also working out players as well, working out opposition quite quickly, and understanding good matchups with bowler batsmen.
Yeah.
And having obviously having trust that the guys execute in the right areas so that the results come through. But was it that sort of part of that strategy that you thought that you really sort of? Because the reason why I asked that is because it's something that, like, I'm not a captain. I have captained. I thought I wanted to be a captain back in the day, and it just worked out quite quickly. It probably wasn't quite right. But I'm a leader of my side, but I do it in a slightly different way.
Yep.
And if I've got something to say, then it's great the guys sort of allow me to say it, which is nice. But I tend to be more analytical and more observant of weaknesses or batsmen, matchups, that sort of thing, game awareness. When I'm not the captain, I don't have that pressure of having to do that stuff. Like, I'm quite a reluctant captain now.
Yeah.
If Crooksy's not around, or isn't, just picks and chooses and doesn't want to do it, someone has to step up and do it. So I don't mind that every now and then, but it's not really what I want to do. I want to be a leader in other ways, by being the guy sort of. Sometimes if we're not going down the right path during a game, I could be the guy that sort of changes our path a little bit. you know, and bring a different perspective, and that's sort of I see that as a bit of a strength in what I do.
Yeah.
But not as a captain.
Yeah, it's important to have that, right? Because, you know, I think any leader will tell you that, you know, they can't do it by themselves. You know, what they can, but they want they you know, they want to be. I don't know if challenge is the right word, but they want people to be able to give them ideas to, you know, for me as a captain, you know, I don't mind that at all. If I don't like your idea, I won't go with it. But what you say might be the difference between our team winning or losing, and I guess as the captain in the end, you're the one that's going to make that call. And so if you don't listen to that information that's being passed on to you, you're a fool. So, you know, yeah, one guy, you know, ends up making a lot of the decisions around who bowls, but it doesn't mean he comes up with all the information.
Yeah,
information's been fed to him from all over the place. Particularly these days, you know, with the more analysis around the game and things like that, a lot of information's been fed off the court, you know.
Yeah, I meant to get more detail on your first game. I want to go back to that.
Right. Yeah.
So 98 World Cup.
Yeah.
England first game. Did he play the first game?
I did.
The game that Andre
Yeah.
did his shoulder in. Yeah, that was my first game too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was 6 of us, right? 6 debutants on that tour. I don't know if we all played that first game, but there was 6 of us.
Wow.
You, Dre,
But
Donks, myself, Scotty
Finlay,
and
Brian Herman. He played the first game.
Did he? I can't remember.
No, neither can I.
Did Robbie not play?
I don't know. I can't remember. Probably, I would have thought. No, I think Robbie played it.
Yeah.
And I think Brian made his debut maybe a game into it afterwards against maybe South Africa.
Ooh, big game.
Yeah, it went bad. Went bad. And you like, it's all a bit of a blur for me when I look back. Like it's just whirlwind, right? It just goes very, very quickly, and you sort of step off the court going, geez, I wish I'd done something a little bit different there, or it's quite a strange sort of feeling your first game, eh?
I don't know if I remember a lot about the games that we played or the games that I played, but there are memories, memories that I have of that, and that tour for me certainly opened my eyes to what you needed to be an international indoor cricketer. Because I was ecstatic to be selected, and I thought I was the bee's knees, New Zealand player, you know, like, and I went away, and just got shown that I was nowhere near an international quality player.
I think that's what got really caught up. All of us did, because we'd actually performed really well at a high level in New Zealand against really good players.
Yeah.
You know, you talk about a Harbour Valley semi-final. I don't want to talk too much about the 98 Nationals, you know, which was a massive game for us, and we probably played our final in the semi when we managed to get through such a strong Valley side. But we were beating the best players in the country, and so of course that pumps your tyres a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And then you go into that environment overseas, and you go, whoa, geez. And I'm glad, you know, we got over England in that first game, and then beat South Africa as well, but then came up against an Aussie side that was like, right, okay.
They were just amazing, eh?
Individually, as a team, confidence levels.
I've seen some footage of that game, and you know, they were fantastic cricketers, but they also played the game way smarter and way better than we did. You know, like we were so naive, you know, like and you know, and it took a while for New Zealand to actually get, you know, to any level that, you know, where, you know, we could compete with those guys. It did. It took a while. But, you know, I think a lot of players got a lot, you know, some major learnings out of that, right? I know it really pushed me on to be become a way better player than I was in '98. way, I was 2 years later, 2000. I was such a better player than what I was in '98.
And then in '02, you were even better than I thought, because you were also captain of most sides that you were in, if not all of them.
Yeah.
So you know do you feel like that made you a better player being leader of a side, or you?
I liked leadership. Yeah, I did. I did. Probably apart from '03, that was a tough tour.
Where was that?
Australia, and
Trans-Tasman,
and we didn't have a coach, and so I coached, captained, and tried to play
with other guys helping you. Do you have a leadership group?
Amy Jean was on the tour as our
physio manager.
Yeah, sports training physio. So she did a lot of work with me. Yep. Yeah. But Colsey, we would play games at where get back to the hotel. Boys would go to bed or whatever and get themselves ready for the next day. I was up trying to get run sheets done for the boys so they knew what was happening the next day. Sometimes I wasn't going to bed till 2:00 because there was no one there doing that sort of stuff. And
what happened there? What New Zealand not sort?
There was I don't think there was anybody that was so. Robbie and Bots and Robbie had pulled out at that stage. Yes, and I don't think Bots could go. That was by far the toughest tour that I ever experienced.
Have a good side?
I thought we did. I thought we did, but we were outplayed. A couple of new players that came on the scene that year. I remember talking to Sonny Chan before he played his first test. And he was a young guy that was really coming through and playing good cricket. And I remember saying to him, it's very accurate. International cricket's accurate, but it's just like any other game you play. Like you watch the ball, you hit the ball, you bowl the ball, and I said you'll remember the first ball that you play in indoor cricket. And he batted with Billy, who was a familiar face, and they batted well together. And Billy's played a lovely down up too, first ball. And I think Millsy's come charging in from cover, up in the
Aaron
air,
Mills,
and just the batters haven't even crossed. Sonny's run out, just a different level, and Bryce Chicken played his first tour, so
he's in the conversation of best goats for me for New Zealand, without a doubt.
Yeah. We could talk about that if you want.
Yeah.
I think it's a.
Is he your goat?
It depends how you judge it. Like if you asked me which New Zealand player had the biggest impact on a tournament or on big games, he wins the prize in that 09 World Cup, in the semi-final and the final. In fact, the whole tournament, but in those two games in particular.
On the big dance.
Mate, how that guy didn't get player of the tournament that year it astounds me. Like he was phenomenal. I don't think he was quite as talented a cricketer as Billy. If you just look at pure skill, Billy was he just had it all. But in terms of Chicken got everything out of himself for that particular event, and he was, like I say, the best player in the world in my opinion. So, first two names down, maybe.
Yeah.
I wasn't fortunate enough to see Wayne, in his prime, and I've spoken to a number of people, and I've been told that he was
special, man.
Yeah,
The thing is that, and I hope Wayne doesn't mind me saying this, but he was he was always a little bit bigger. young Maori kid at 16 years of age, you know,
Yeah.
going over playing against Aussie guys and beating them up through sheer ability, freakness, and attitude. And he wasn't scared of them. And I think that's probably what got him most of the way home. It's because he wasn't gonna, you know, like he'd been beaten up at home, you know, in New Zealand, you know, through childhood and all the rest. You know, he wasn't gonna have some Aussie guys make his life any harder. So he, it's just he was unbelievable. You know, he's one of the. You know, I still remember my first time walking down at the patch when I was a young kid. Like, I was playing intermediate, so I would have been 11. And I don't know. So there was the Auckland Champs were on at patch, and at the cricket patch in Glenfield, and it was the first time that I walked in when I was a kid off my bike, put my bike at the front door, walked in and saw the Jensens playing for. It was a Manurewa. I think they were playing for a Manurewa centre, and they nicknamed their team Not the West Indies, and they had these grey and maroon with a maroon stripe down the side. So sort of the shirt looked very similar to the World Cup, the World Series West Indies shirts, and they were called Not the West Indies. and Stu and Boyd were in that side. I'm sure there were other you know Auckland player names in that team that I wouldn't be able to remember, but that was the. You know, seeing Wayne play when he was 16, Keith, Dave Ponting, Alistair McLaren, just players that were just super special. Tony Watkins doing stuff that you would never dream that he was doing, you know, like people, you know, it was a different guy back then, and extremely exciting and excitable player who could win your matches. We could probably lose them as well, but could absolutely take matches away from you. Yeah. Batting last and smashing sevens every second ball, you know, and against rocks. Yeah. Do you play much with the pivot JRBs? And it's changed the game we've played, man, from the harder rocks to the burleys.
Yeah, I don't. You know, like I've listened to you talk about this, and I probably don't have the recollections, you know, of the change quite as much as you do. But because I think when I was younger, I don't really remember a lot about it. I just played, you know, like and they threw you a ball and you played with it, you know, like it didn't, you know, like it didn't sort of resonate with me much, I don't think. And I had a few years out, you know, because I thought maybe I could be a rugby player for a wee while, and so I had a stint with rugby and things like that, so which affected indoors. So but I remember them being rock hard.
Yeah,
I remember getting hit in the forehead with one.
Oh, wow. I remember hitting a guy in the forehead with one.
Hope it wasn't me.
No, it was in 90. It would have been in 92. I was playing for Harbour. It was my first season with Harbour and Keith's side, and a guy called Carl Toussaint was playing for Manukau, and he was a really good outdoor batsman, sort of Premier Reserve player, really good bat, and he could play indoors, and I bowled fifth over at him and bowled a bouncer and just hit him square in the middle of the head. He charged me and bounced him and hit him in the middle of the head. And he just went straight back and just went to face up again. And then Keith was at leg side line. He said he could just see this thing just grow and grow and grow. He just kept playing. And Keith was just like, "Are you kidding?" Just couldn't believe that nothing more had happened out of one of those things hitting you in the middle of the head. You know?
Well, that I was at point and just got square cut straight into my head. It was a Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, you know, cold. I think we were at Rotorua or somewhere like that, and just lay straight in. Yeah, I think Batty's sledged me for not catching it.
So obviously the ball. I mean, we have spoken in previous podcasts about the ball changes and how it's changed the development of the game and for the good or better and stuff. I think what's changed the game, and I've been a little bit vocal about this, but 6 ball overs and 8 ball over cricket. What's your take on the change to 6 ball over across the board?
In terms of, do I think it's better or
overall good for the game, bad for the game?
it's I guess it speeds it up. It's made it in some ways it's less of a skill game, I guess. You know, like I think in 8-ball cricket, you're able to make a mistake and still come back from it. You know, 6-ball over cricket, it's a lot harder to do. It is. It's a lot harder to come back from your mistakes.
It evens teams up too.
Yeah, it does.
Big time.
Yep.
Yeah, you only need to kill one partnership and you can pretty much take the game.
Yeah.
Not every time, but in general.
Yeah.
It definitely evens it up. And much like the ball change, it's allowed players who perhaps aren't so skilled in a certain area, me with my batting, brilliant. The 6-ball overs is pretty good if I face less deliveries. But bowlers especially as well, where you've only got to bowl 6 balls with a softer ball rather than, you know, bowling eight balls, longer overs with a ball that's not going to assist you as much unless you are good at what you do and you know how to bowl. So I think it's taken a little bit away from pedestaling skilled players in certain areas of the game, you know. Like, for me, I just want to see more cricket. Like, there's certainly at tournaments, 6-ball overs, yeah, absolutely. It's tough running a tournament, and you've got to try and fit that many teams. We all want more teams and more players at tournaments.
Yep.
So let's shorten the game up. Even for the semis and finals, that's fine. Make it 6-ball overs, that's great. But for the kids even, you know, like, I want to see kids play more cricket, not less cricket, so that they get better. And at international level, the pinnacle of our sport, I want to see Rob Fitzgerald do more stuff at international level, not less. I want to see the best players of our game doing more. I want to see Victor Davies hit more balls. I want to see Michael Barry bowl more. I want to, you know, like, not less of it. And I certainly don't want. I want teams, if they are good enough to win, I want to see them work bloody hard at a game to win it. Whereas even at international level, I see it just evening teams up. And I suppose that's great from a spectator perspective, but for wanting the best out of the best, I'm just not sure of it.
I haven't really thought about it too much to really give an opinion on it.
Well, look, we're not going to change. We're not going to change it just by talking about this on a podcast. It is what it is.
I guess that's my attitude. You know, like they tell me what's going to happen, and I'll try and come up with a plan. You know, so if it's 8-ball cricket, well, I'll try and come up with a plan to win, and you know, like and that might change. You know, it might change your thinking around selection, around how you want to play it, and things like that. But I guess it's not. It's 6-ball overs, and so you know, we'll try and come up with a plan for that sort of variety of cricket.
Your coaching, so we'll go into the coaching style thing, but what when was it that you wanted to go down that? Was it after you finished playing, or was it before you finished playing?
No, I didn't want to I didn't think I'd be good at it. I really had some real doubts. So finished up in 2014, retired, and had 2015 off altogether. But I missed it. You know, I missed the nil cricket, and so 2016, I think I got involved with Wellington, and enjoyed it. And so then, so 2016 was Port Macquarie, right? So my brother coaching the
Juniors.
22s, and he asked me if I'd do assistant role with him, and I thought, well, that's kind of cool, you know, like do it with my bro, and so I said yes, and you know, so we went over, and obviously it was a plan to, you know, for Dubai as well, and then Sean ended up having to chose to go to England, but still wanted to do the coaching, so he did his OE, went over, did some teaching, and which left me in the position of sort of, I guess,
it was all a cunning plan from day one.
Well, so I guess I had to sort of take over the head coaching role, or certainly the selection and things like that, because he wasn't here and he wasn't going to come back to, for provincial tournaments. So I wanted to I wanted some input from somebody else, somebody that would challenge me around selection, and somebody that I could talk to, around selecting this side. And I tell you what, it's very difficult picking it's challenging picking an unders side, because you have to watch every game at the tournament, just about, or every round, because a lot of your players are playing men's, but you have to watch the unders grade at provincials as well. So we did that. So I asked, I gave Rowdy a call. I gave John Rowland a call. And I said, mate, this is my situation. No commitment from you apart from come to the tournament, sit with me, let's watch, and let's pick a team. And, we have a pretty good relationship from our time playing together, for New Zealand. And he accepted that challenge. And I had a great weekend with Rowdy. And he really did challenge me in different ways. Yeah. And we talked about how we wanted to play the game, and the type of players we wanted to be able to select, and so we made a number of changes to the side from the year before, because we felt like we needed to, or I felt that we needed to challenge the sides at that Junior World Cup in a different way to what we were trying to do the year before.
Is that the one in Christchurch?
No, Dubai. And then Sean met us in Dubai, and we went over. I think we had a training camp before we went, and I asked, Rowdy came along and was a part of that, and then Rowdy stayed at home. Sean and I, took the side over in Dubai, and we had a good group, and unfortunately, fell at the last hurdle. We had some good moments in that tournament though, and a couple of those players have gone on to now represent the men's side, and I think from going from that assistant coach role to then having to sort of do more of a head coaching role, I think I realised that I wasn't an assistant coach. If I was going to do it, I needed to be in charge.
What did you see was the key differences between that assistant role and head coach? Because I've done outdoor stuff at a fairly good level.
Yep.
And don't see myself as the head coach. I see it's almost like the reverse, and maybe it's similar to the captaincy sort of thing. Maybe it's I don't see myself as the overarching sort of general manager of the group. I do see myself very I guess I've got some skills available to be able to be a little bit more one-on-one as that assistant sort of role.
I think that's, you've hit the nail on the head, Colsey. I think, in my sort of eyes anyway, I think the head coach's role is about ensuring that the team and the players have the best resources available to them to maximise their ability, and the assistant's role is to add value in some of those areas, and that's what you're saying you do.
And that's what Rowdy does.
Well, so Rowdy and I are a little bit different, because we don't have a head coach. We do it together.
Right.
There's no, I don't think either of us are sort of that way inclined. No. We just sort of roll.
Just want to work.
But I guess the roles that we've set up, or just fallen into, Rowdy probably does do a little bit more sort of that specific coaching stuff, mm-hmm. and I just sort of try and make sure that we have the best resources available for us to ensure that we win, and come up with plans to ensure, and and we bounce ideas off each other around the way that we want to play the game, and I guess that was the big thing, right? When we applied for the men's position, we said, well, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it properly. So we put a proper proposal into the New Zealand board with a plan on how we saw New Zealand indoor cricket playing the game, and winning a World Cup, and so that's, you can't just sort of jot that down. It takes quite a bit of time to discuss and work out how we want to do that, and so we talked long and hard around what we thought was the best way for New Zealand to compete and win, and I guess that the roles that we fell into is that's just the way it works. But there's team meetings. It's one of us will speak, but it's not there's no head coach, I don't think.
One of the things I wanted to bring up was the job of the coach and the job of the captain, and I've always sort of seen as that a key job for both of them is to bring the best out of their players, and I guess that's a bit of a statement rather than a question. I meant it to be a question, like if you.
My thoughts are that the captain is the boss of the team, and so my job as the coach is to empower my captain to ensure that he has everything that he wants, and his team believe that he's the man that's going to lead them, and has all the tools to lead them into battle. And so I try to do that with Vic. We have, regular conversations about, what he wants, or I don't hide things from him. I tell him what I think, and and it's his job to challenge me if he doesn't agree with what I'm saying, and if I don't agree with something that he likes, I'll try and argue my point, but it's his team.
Interesting. We'll probably edit this next bit out, but I just want to bring it up because we'll bring it up in normal conversation anyway. But the coaching from the sideline, the decision making from the sideline, is that something you guys engage in? And I guess reasons behind it.
So,
like I say,
we talked about it earlier. I think it's a real strength of what I can offer, and I don't have the pressures of in battle decision making. I sit on the outside and have time to be able to make calculated decisions. But whenever I appoint a captain at any level, and I coach under 17 provincial level because there's no New Zealand requirements of me at that tournament. So again, I do the same with them. I let the captain know what I would like to do. I tell them that they're the boss, and if they have any inclination to make a decision on the field,
go for it.
They will get my support 100%. I was a captain, I know what it's like. What I'm offering them is my thoughts. It's just their call whether they want to go with it or not. I'm not. They're in charge, not me. But and if they don't want it, I won't give it. It's fine.
Yeah, it's
no problems. But I think, I think I can add value in that area, and so I offer it to them. And if they, if they want it, they can take it. If they don't, I'm not the captain.
And let's be honest, game plans are pretty much well set and well spoken about before the game's played anyway, so a lot of it is already pre-planned while not locked in place. Bowlers are probably going to bowl in specific areas or against good matchups with good batsmen.
Yeah.
Those sort of plans are probably already in place, so there wouldn't be too many surprises, except maybe you go him now and then him, or you might switch, or it just might be small little changes that anyway, because you'd pretty much be on a similar sort of
sometimes we'll have matchups that we like, and we want to see certain players, and bowl to a batsman or something like that, and so that information will get fed through. But it's hard to. You can't sit down and write down an order at the start. Like you'll have an idea of what you would like to do, but what if the opposition send out a player that plays, that type of bowling really, really well? Like you've got to be able to adapt, and so we'll talk a little bit about the incoming batsman when we have our huddles before the pairs, and so there will be some discussion with the captain around how we want to, attack each player that we're about to bowl to, and then, and then the captain will get a feel, and I'll go, nah, this is what, and I'll certainly have a conversation with the skip afterwards about it, but it's never going to be why did you do that?
That's what were your thoughts?
Yeah.
What we're thinking? Yeah.
Let me know. Share it with me. Help me be better as well. After all, that's all I want is for us to win. Within reason. I don't really care how that happens. Within reason. So that's how we go with the coach captaining sort of thing. So it's not it's not. I don't iron fist and say this is how it's done. It's got to be agreed upon, and there's discussions around that. And if captain doesn't want it,
that's great.
No problems with me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Who
is your quickest bowler you ever faced? I think I know the answer to this.
You do know the answer to that.
It's just shared up there.
Yeah. And I did. I certainly wasn't fortunate enough, but I certainly did have to face him quite a few times as well. He bowled me quite a bit.
Yeah, you batted 3 most of the time.
Quite
you and I batted together a little bit for New Zealand, didn't we? Mainly in '98. I think a couple of times in that World Cup we batted together.
That'd be right. Yeah.
And then batted with Rocket.
And I think when you batted with Rocket, I might have batted with Goon.
Probably about right. That sounds right. Yeah, he was quick. I faced one baller, Corey. So we're talking about Corey Otto, obviously. I faced one ball from him in the 2002 World Cup in Wellington. And I batted with Gareth Irwin. And I just remember distinctly getting in the box and just going, here we go, man. Here we go. What's going to happen here? And he's bowled me this quick. It was very quick, but it was just good length, hitting top of off, just outside off stump, and I've managed to just put him down up him for 2 and ran through the other end and just yelled at him, is that all you got, mate? He turned around and looked at me with these eyes just went like full bore, and then poor Hale had to face the rest of the over. I didn't face another ball, but he was rapid. Like, too many of these words are thrown around way too often. The words like legend and rapid, quick, heat, gas, like just thrown around just a little bit too often sometimes, because you need a word to be able to describe what he was.
He's the quickest I faced.
Easily. He was, I think, probably a yard quicker than, like Andre was quick when he wanted to be quick when he was angry.
Not on the same.
No. He was a yard on most guys. Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit before, but Dan McLaughlin was slippery.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I never got to face or be around Dan.
Slippery.
Yeah.
A couple of South Africans, pretty decent. Well,
I remember that 14 World Cup, and there was a couple of guys in that South African side that were pretty pretty quick. But I've sort of said their names to other guys, and they're like, yeah, they're all right.
Yeah.
But
I think in 2011, was it 2011? I think the South Africans had a couple of guys that were pretty slippery. I mean, Junior Dala.
Oh yes, I've heard that name.
He was fast. The 2014. We're not probably talking, as quick as the guys we're talking about, but very good bowlers. Egbert, Luke.
Oh yes, yeah.
Very, quality bowler.
Yeah.
There's been some quick guys around.
Yeah, it's just the balls now. The burleys just don't really excite guys to want to just bowl really, really quick. And sort of hats off to guys like Jared and Toddy Watson and Tobes, who really are trying to get it down there. Mitchell Rush as well. They're guys who are genuinely trying to really bowl quick and shape it around a bit and not hold back. And it's good on them too, because with their older balls, it's a lot easier to bowl real heat. Real heat.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah.
But you still had to put it on. You can just rock up and just bowl quick. But yeah, it excited you to have a ball that was going to kiss off and do a little bit of damage if you got it
so
right.
It didn't quite hold up, right? It and when it hit you, you stayed hit, eh?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Teams that you've come up against, either coaching or playing against, who do you reckon's the best partnership we've ever seen go around? I've sort of got two at the moment, who I think, but
New Zealand or
anyone.
Shivers, that's a tough question, mate. There's so many,
For New Zealand, like if we talk New Zealand first, like I'd suggest that probably O2 Orchard Brothers and Billy and Culkin.
Two pretty
very, very hard to go past those guys. Hard to think that Kirby's not part of one of our best partnerships around. And then before our time, Dooley and Stu Jensen closing pretty exceptional. I don't think Dooley closed too much, but I remember those guys batting together pretty exceptional.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to talk about the ones earlier. Obviously, I saw Robbie, perhaps towards the end of his career, and I got fortunate enough to play with him. He just bounced everything for two. Everything.
Before we knew what a down up was, it was a little bit weird, eh? Because he was doing it, but wasn't sort of rubbing off on what other guys were doing.
Well, no, he was, maybe some of the Wellington guys that perhaps you're less familiar with, your Stu Robs and your Roger Kinsellas and guys like that. They were good bats. And you had quality bowlers like Mike Sears and Lincoln Dool and those Wellington sort of players and sides were reasonable, but I'm trying to think off the top of my head if there's been outstanding partnerships since that 2002 era, and nothing sort of really springs to mind that sort of goes, that pair was, maybe we just don't bat guys together for long periods of time anymore, because there's been some really good batters, right? Some quality players.
Amazing.
We could talk, go through every tournament, and I guarantee you there's Nick Ward at 2009. This young kid came on the scene and he was just down-upping people for fun. Michael Barry in
11?
Yeah, in 11. Chanel Sharma in 2014. It's like amazing. Super talented. Yeah. There's been some really good players, but I don't sort of remember any sort of combination that sort of, just went gangbusters. Anybody that batted with Billy was going to be, half okay.
Colkey could play too, man.
Absolutely.
Could definitely bat at international level. There's no doubt. I think, those guys are they're really strong in my mind as being. So I guess because they played at club level together. And batted together and were so strong as they sort of took that into that international scene and just did so well as well.
I'll tell you one thing that we haven't talked about that I like to maybe bring up is I reckon that when New Zealand is at its strongest is when we have really strong presence of quality outdoor cricket players, guys that have played high level outdoor cricket.
Why is that? What do they bring?
I think there's a technical aspect of the outdoor game that is really crucial to the indoor game, and you can teach yourself to be a more than serviceable indoor cricket player with limited skills. But if you've got that technique and skill base to fall back on, it's huge, in my opinion. And so I sort of look at the more successful New Zealand sides that we've had, and you look at the outdoor cricket talent base that those sides had.
It's true, yeah.
It's look at our side, and if you go back to the side that won the Test series against Australia, you look at the outdoor, how many of those guys played first class cricket or higher?
Yeah.
Kerr,
Dull,
Fultz, JD Fulton.
Yeah.
I don't have the team in front of me. I'm sure there's more.
Well, Wayne played in it, but hadn't played outdoor at Auckland level since then, but did.
Yes.
Did go on to play.
Yes, yeah. Right, so...
Brian Ford, was he around, or did he come through in 92?
Harry was in that side.
Chris Harris, Ben Harris.
Like this phenomenal outdoor, and look at our O2 side. So you had Mark Orchard that played first class cricket, Colkey, Billy, Ian O'Brien, myself, Gareth Irwin, all played first class cricket.
Played as well. Yeah.
Sorry?
I played as well.
Yep, yourself.
And
then you've got, how far did Toddy go?
Premier club cricket. Yeah.
Brendan Donkers played first class cricket. Talented side, right?
Do you think that's the same case? Do you think that's the same with the way the game's played now, though? Because it is definitely a different game, the way it's played. Do you still think technique and... Yeah,
I do. Yeah, I do, because in the end, batting's still batting. And like I said, you can be serviceable, but if you're a good batter, you're going to get far more out of your batting performance. You've got the potential to get way more out of your batting performance as a team and as an individual. And I guess it's the same with the ball. If you're a high level outdoor bowler, well, you've got the skill set to really execute plans far better in indoor cricket, in my opinion. And I look at our current group, and I think we have good outdoor pedigree.
But you've also got a couple of players in there that don't play don't play any serious outdoor cricket anymore. Well, I'm not sure if I should name names here. I'm not too sure, but you've got one in particular who hasn't played much serious outdoor cricket at all, and I might be wrong about that, but I don't think he has. And you've got arguably one of your best players in your squad who played really high level club cricket, and it was exceptionally good in club cricket, but didn't go any further than that.
Yeah,
and it hasn't done that since 2013 or whenever it was. a long time.
Yeah, sure. And look, I mean, some of the players we're talking about from say 02 played the first class cricket, and
Just
after as well.
Sure.
So we might be in a similar situation with some of our younger guys, but I thought about it the other day, and I just thought that this group is they're good outdoor cricketers. I haven't got them all, in my head at the moment. So, right. but just generalising,
and I did say before, having those young kids come through an outdoor program and then bring that technique into indoor.
Yeah.
Like I know this because I can say this hand on heart. My daughter's hasn't come through an outdoor program, so she's still learning and developing her indoor game by playing indoor at the moment. But she wants to play a really strong. She asked me the other day and said, can we get in to do some training over summer for indoor next year? This is how much she loves it. It's so cool, right?
Yeah.
And I said, honey, the best thing that you can do is play outdoor this year. Play an outdoor season. We'll get you one-on-one coaching, batting and bowling, and bring that into indoor next year. You'll be a far better indoor cricket player. So there's definitely something to be said for, especially with batting. But I think you're probably quite right with bowling as well. Is that if you come in with a batting technique in indoor, you're going to excel a lot quicker.
Yeah, I know they're complete. The games are different, but the skills that you're offering are the same or very similar.
Play straight, play the ball late. Yeah, what does Kane Williamson do, right?
Yep. The bowling. Your mentality. You're trying to get guys out. There might be a slightly different way to get guys out in outdoor cricket, but it's a challenge.
Yeah, developing plans.
Yeah. So they're parallels. They work together. I think an outdoor, some sort of outdoor background is, has benefits. Yeah. It doesn't mean that you're going to be, selected or, be any better than someone that isn't. But there are benefits. There are, in my opinion.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man, we've purposely stayed away from this World Cup. You and I had a discussion that we were going to not talk too in depth about it for some good reasons, but I did want to talk to you before the World Cup, so that we could then talk after the World Cup and have two really, really cool conversations with however it goes.
Yep.
Doesn't really matter. Well, of course it matters,
but
absolutely matters. But I want to thank you. I want to thank you for having this. You're one of the key guys, that I've always wanted to talk to about this, because you're in a fantastic position, one that I back fully, and I really hope that you and Rowdy and the guys do a fantastic job. And it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks coming up, that's for sure. So thanks very much, man.
Really looking forward to it, Colesy. Can't wait.
As much as I was looking forward to tonight. As much as I was looking forward to playing for Auckland against New Zealand tonight.
Let's not go there, guys.
Okay. Very good. Thanks, man.
Cheers,
Appreciate
mate.
it. Thank you so much. Love you heaps, man.
Great to talk.
Cheers, buddy. Cheers.